The following is a dead bug documentary. If you're watching it anywhere else than my channel, then some thieving fuck stole it. Life. It is most certainly about chance and circumstance. A cacophony, one might say, if you are prone to using fancy words. One corner, two corner, three corner, more. Sometimes it is a simple corner that holds sway and decides your fate. Such is the case of the Van Breda family, who had everything they could want in life. But sometimes everything is nothing. In fact, it were a long-dead egghead philosopher who once said, "A doorway is only a doorway as long as it is open."
What is Stephen? What is your emergency?
Yeah. I need an ambulance. Lots of,
The ambulance.
Yes, please.
What's your name, sir?
Henry from Breda.
And you, the patient.
No, my family is someone attacked my family. Yes,
Now, who is injured?
I think everyone.
Everyone in your house.
Everyone.
Are they conscious?
I don't think so. My sister's moving, but that's it.
Are there any suspects on scene?
No, they ran away.
With what were they attacked?
An axe.
When police arrived at the home, it looked like a retard had been given haircuts with a chainsaw. Or I suppose an axe would be a more appropriate description. With only 20-year-old Henry and his 16-year-old sister Molly surviving, who had suffered catastrophic injuries, and the other 3 family members on a meat slab, the crime were a shock to the close-knit, gated community. But almost instantly, investigators had some questions. Like, why were Henry's wounds so superficial when the rest of his family looked like fucking dog food? His worst wounds looked like shaven cuts, not like the brutality of the others. A reported head severed, limbs removed. Hell, someone cut off his brother's cock. He even reported in the press that his sister had one of her breasts cut off. What had Africana cops even more powerful? Or for a break-in, there certainly weren't no signs of it. Laptops were left, expensive watches, cash lying around, designer handbags, nothing were missing. Security cameras everywhere. Besides a family, there wasn't a single fingerprint. The place was as clean as the sole on a cripple's boot. And when you got more questions than answers, that tends to make cops suspicious. The first thing forensics experts started doing were looking at Henry's wounds, because I guess they weren't buying what he had to sell. Henry's sister Molly were a key piece to the puzzle. A key piece indeed. But surgeons didn't know if she were gonna make it, that she were 2 steps from the abyss. Now here's some friendly advice if you're planning on slaughtering your family. If you're not included in on that slaughtering, you better have a pretty good fucking alibi. Henry's side of the story to the police were that it were the early hours when he were in the bathroom taking a shit, and he heard some loud banging noises. So he opened the door to see a black man with a balaclava attacking his older brother with an axe. Coming to his brother's rescue, the man turned on him with a knife and an axe and started attacking him, laughing, while his brother laid on the floor, bleeding out from a head wound. Fighting with the intruders, they turned and ran off. It was then that he went and checked on his parents and his sister, and found out they'd been attacked too. He then called the police, and then an ex-girlfriend who didn't answer the phone. By all accounts and purposes, the Van Breda family had an idyllic life. Kids were raised in Perth, Australia, and attended a prestigious school, and the family had moved to South Africa to be close to their oldest son, Rudy, who were about to attend university. The father was minted, worth about $18 million. And I guess it's safe to say that the family were as loved up as two retards in a broom closet with a lollipop. Good looking, academic, into sports. I guess if there were one blight on the family's record, was that Henry had been sent to an expensive drug rehab center a few months earlier. But other than that, they seemed to be the perfect family. And while everybody agreed that the family had a charmed life, public opinion on what happened was split down the middle like the oldest son Rudy's skull. And while the cops and the media were quick to embrace a story about a black killer or killers, with Henry walking out of the hospital the same day that he had walked in, the more suspicious types were wondering what really happened in the early hours of January 27th. And now it seemed that the tiebreaker were going to be the younger sister, who were in a vegetative state. As detectives spoke to neighbors who reported hearing yelling on the night of the murders, forensics combed the house inch by inch, but it just wasn't adding up. Like, why were the only footprints in there Henry's? Why were he wearing his boots at 7 in the morning when he was supposed to be taking a shit? I mean, it just didn't seem like the normal thing to do. But when forensics came back with his phone and computer records, it got even stranger. Because he'd phoned his ex-girlfriend at 4:42, and then when she didn't answer, he started Googling numbers to emergency services. Now why the fuck would he do that? If the murder happened at 7 o'clock like he said it did, seems like he were a man with all the time in the world. When questioned by police about the conflicting times, Henry told them that he must have passed out during one of his epileptic fits, which are brought on by heightened emotions. Seemed Henry had an answer for everything. Now, police had a whole lot of theories, but no proof. One of those theories was that Henry was caught with drugs, and that his parents took away his sizable allowance. But relatives say that weren't the parents' style. They loved the golden boy too much. But it was 5 months later, when Molly woke up, that they were going to have their answer. But when she came out of a coma, all she could do was drool and not much more. She didn't remember her own name, much less who tried to kill her and slaughter the family. Experts say it were a trauma-induced amnesia, and that she could come out of it in a week or a lifetime. Which a lifetime ain't a good thing, considering she's the only witness. Well, unless you consider Henry a witness. I suppose if Henry were sad, he decided to turn that frown upside down. And the fact his parents were no longer around to spend all that money, I guess he figured it were a shame to leave it in the bank. So he took his new girlfriend, and they went out on one great big fuck fest, traveling the world, taking in all its pleasures. Pleasures of the flesh, one may say. An opportunist, a facetious person may lyrically wax. Me? I ain't one to judge. Judging ain't my business. But either way, Henry were getting his freak on, while his sister were eating meals from a straw. I guess Henry got careless, and when he was coming home through the airport, he got caught with a big bag of dope. Devil weed, some may say. For medical purposes, others may defend. But either way, one should not enjoy themselves at the expense of others' lives.
Amen to that, brother.
But now it seemed that South African cops had a legitimate axe to grind.
I fucking hate cops.
With Rudy lying on his bed here, in the situation with the attacker's facing this way, I'm behind him, and he was swinging the axe down. wondering.
Firstly, to get your posture and your positions correctly, sir, is that how you intend to demonstrate that if the bed is standing across in front of you, or from left to right, I'm sorry, I'm very good at directions, from left to right in front of you, he's standing almost at an angle to the bed, or was he facing the bed directly?
At an angle.
At an angle. And the type of motion that he used?
Breathing in the smoke, fill my lungs and go dark places, blank faces, praying for a glance of eyes I used to have, still searching through pain when set this body on fire, set this body on fire, set this body on fire, on fire. I burn for you. The gates of hell can't keep me away. I walk into the flames.
Murder of Rudy van Breda, you are sentenced to life in prison. On count 2, the murder of Martin van Breda, you are sentenced to life in prison. On count 3, the murder of Teresa van Breda, you are sentenced to life in prison. For the attempted murder of Marley van Breda, you are sentenced to 15 years in prison. On count 5, obstructing the course of justice, for the administration of justice, as set out in the charge sheet, you are sentenced to 12 months